Welcome, Pewter Report readers, listeners, and viewers to another edition of the Pewter Report podcast, a Victory Monday edition of the Pewter Report podcast, energized by Celsius. I'm John Ledyard from pewterreport.com. With me today is Scott Reynolds, also from pewterreport.com. My boss, the esteemed, the one and only Scott Reynolds, who got to see Blaine Gabbert yesterday because it was a victory Sunday, which leads us to a victory Monday for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Scott.
How the hell are you, John?
I'm great, man. I'm basking in the glow of a 38-3 victory and getting to cover a 38-3 victory and basking in the glow of another great content day at pewterreport.com.
Yes.
We've got tons of articles up for anybody who might be interested in reading more about this game and about the games to come as well. We'll have those covered. Big one against the Saints coming up this week.
Big one,
we'll
yes.
get into that this week on the podcast, Scott. We'll talk about injuries and the Bucs maybe getting healthy. We'll answer your questions on today's show. We'll give our thoughts on if this defense has turned a corner. So, yeah, it's a great time to be covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
It really is. And really, it's a great time to see Blaine Gabbert really anytime, especially when Tom Brady's still fully healthy, right? I think anytime you see Blaine Gabbert, and it's not because of an injury to Tom Brady, it's a great thing because the Buccaneers remain undefeated in 2021 when Blaine Gabbert plays.
Yeah, it wasn't going to take you long to bring up Blaine Gabbert. I knew that. I wasn't sure whether.
I appreciate the invitation. That's awesome.
I mean, kind of opened the door for you.
Really, what Blaine Gabbert is, and I think we could say this. What Blaine Gabbert is to the Buccaneers is like Celsius to the show. It's a necessity. It's an absolute part of the program. It's welcomed. It's enjoyed. It gives you full of life and full of energy.
Celsius powers active lives every day with essential functional energy. You can see the variety of flavors there. I've got the peach vibe, sparkling white peach edition that I'm rocking today, but no sugar, yet still unbelievable taste. That's a staple of Celsius, basically, in all of these different flavors. So lots of variety for you. Again, the fact that you can get this energy without getting a lot of the bad stuff that comes in other energy drinks, and there's no drop off from the energy drink after you've had it. It sustains you throughout your day, throughout the work you have to do, all of that. It's been key for us in that way. And I'd be remiss if I didn't also mention the fact that Celsius has these unbelievable fast protein bars that are available as well. Scott, the white chocolate cookies and cream, the caramel peanut crunch. I'm telling you, these are the best tasting protein bars you'll ever find. Yeah. They're unbelievable. They've replaced sweets in the Ledyard household. We love these things, and they're good for you too. I mean, there's 20 grams of protein in one of these and 1 gram of sugar. Yeah. I'm holding the white chocolate cookies and cream in front of me right now. Had one yesterday for sustaining me through the game day broadcast. So it's great stuff. You can click on the link in the YouTube description to find these fast protein bars and order yourself the variety pack. And you can go to Celsius.com, use the store locator, find out where Celsius are sold near you, or just go to Amazon, do the subscribe and save, get a percentage off, get a bunch of flavors shipped right to you. It's great stuff.
John, my favorite flavor right now is this Celsius Heat Creamsicle, right? Mm-hmm. It's actually called Orange Sickle. I call it Creamsicle because it reminds me of the Bucs throwback uniforms, right? And listen, it's orange, right? And here we're approaching Halloween, so they've got a fantastic promotion at Celsius right now that is really for the Pewter Report audience. We're going to tell you about that really quick. What you need to do is go to Celsius.com, and we'll have the exact link in the description below. It's Pewter-Report-Halloween-Giveaway. And all you have to do is give them your name and email address and hit submit. And when you do that, oh, boy, howdy, are you going to be able to get entered to win a free case of Orange Sickle Heat. So it's free, absolutely free. All you have to do, they're giving away 3 cases. Go ahead and just enter to win, and you have an opportunity to win a free case of Orange Sickle Heat.
Yeah.
John,
a great flavor.
It is. Man. It's one of my top 5, and I'm just crushing it right now with Halloween approaching. And the Bucs doing so well.
A lot of Bucs fans haven't probably tried that one. So what I'll do is after the show, I'll take that link. I'll put it in the YouTube description after the show so people can jump in there and get that pretty easily. But yeah, I don't think a lot of Bucs fans have tried that one, and it's a really good one. So hopefully you get a chance to. We got super chats rolling in already. William Butler with the $5 super chat. Can't lie. I love you guys. Keep up the great work, fellas. Flexing. Love it, William. Thank you, man. We appreciate it. We love y'all. Y'all have been amazing this season to see this show already go to the numbers and the heights that it's gone to is great. And we're just getting started too. And I think the Bucs are just getting started, Scott, and getting some of these guys back will help from injury, right? That's been one of the stories,
no doubt about it,
first half of the Bucs season. And now you've got an opportunity. Bruce Arians said today, talking to us, that he hopes Levante David will be back this week and Rob Gronkowski will be back this week. Maybe Richard Sherman. Didn't mention Antonio Brown. I don't know whether he didn't think of him or if he thinks he'll be out longer. They didn't put him on IR though. And so I guess we'll just have to wait and find out about him. But either way, it seems like the Bucs are getting healthier.
Yeah, I think that's the case. And I would expect that we're going to see Antonio Brown back. He just seems to be like a little bit of a quick healer. You know, he had that knee injury in the postseason. Really missed a game and a half. He missed the second half of the New Orleans game, missed the Packers game, was back for the Super Bowl. I know he had the extra week there to get healthy, but it didn't seem like that ankle sprain was too tremendous during the game. And it was enough, obviously, to keep him out last week. But, I mean, when I say last week, I mean yesterday. But they didn't even need him, really. So I think that he'll be back. I also believe that Levante David will be back, and Rob Gronkowski. I think those are the three guys to keep an eye on. And you know what? You might need all three of those guys, or at least two out of three, against the Saints, because you can throw out the records. No, the Saints are not nearly as dominant as they were, I think, a couple of years ago. They've had a change in quarterback, obviously, with Drew Brees. And then certainly some defensive guys. Trey Hendrickson is gone. They've lost some guys, right, on the defensive side. Yeah, mostly due to salary cap, because this team, the Saints team, they went for it, right? They had a window, and that window closed last year, and there was the Bucs slamming the door and ending Drew Brees' career with an interception, courtesy of Mike Edwards. So I just think, John, that there's no love lost between these teams. I think the Saints want some revenge, especially because it happened last year in their building. Yeah, this is Halloween. It's going to be a little crazy down in Voodoo City, and I just think this is a good old fashioned NFC South rivalry. You can throw out the records, anything can happen.
Yeah, and the Saints are also kind of getting healthier too. I believe that they'll return a few players tonight against Monday night, I should say, if you're listening to this tomorrow for whatever reason. Monday night, they'll return some players against Seattle, which that, I know we're kind of, some people might be listening to this after that game ends, but if you're not listening live, but, that might be a game that indicates a lot of how this week's going to go. Hey, Saints are playing on the short week, so any injury in that game is probably magnified if the Saints have any. But more than anything, what's their level of play like coming off the bye week? They've been one of the weirdest teams in the NFL, Scott. One of the worst passing offenses by volume, but efficiency, at least in terms of the red zone, has been off the charts, 93%.
Thanks to that small sample size.
That's right. Yes, it's basically guaranteed to decline. When that happens, what happens with the Saints? Does their offense go in the gutter? They've had a lot of short fields this year. They have had a defensive score or two maybe this year. I think they've had. The defense has really kind of carried them. They've had a good, solid run game and good run defense. But their offensive line, which is still one of the better ones in the league, is giving up more pressure than any other line in the league, according to Pro Football Focus.
Wonder why that is,
this
John.
year. Yeah, it's crazy. You change Jameis, by the way, not that this is correlating at all, but Jameis is holding the ball for over 3 seconds longer than Justin Fields was, and obviously only 5 games there. But we'll see how what changes off the bye. That's the big question I have.
Right now, to Jameis's credit, now he's only been sacked 9 times, so it's kind of a fine line, right? Because pressures do matter. Sacks are a different thing than pressure, because you're actually ending the play, right? You can still complete a pass while you're being pressured, and I think Jameis, maybe he's done that. He's completed 60% of his passes. Not a career mark for Jameis in that regards. Maybe some of those pressures have affected some of his passes, but when he was in Tampa, he got sacked 47 times in 2019, which was the first year in Bruce Arians' offense, which by design wants the quarterback to hang on to the ball to allow those routes to develop down the field. Now, there's a huge drastic difference between Tom Brady, who processes things so quickly, and still with those routes developing down the field vertically can still anticipate throws and get the ball in the air quicker. He doesn't have to see it. He knows where to go with the ball. And that's why you see sometimes, even in the short passes, even on the Chris Godwin touchdown, even in the Mike Evans touchdown, right by the corner of the end zone, the receiver turns around and the ball is literally right there. They have to catch it in self-defense. And I think Jameis doesn't process as quickly as Tom Brady does. Few do, right?
Mhm.
But I think that him holding onto the ball, at least in 2019, I had a team source tell me that out of 47 sacks, Jameis was responsible for 17 of those. That's over a third of the sacks.
Yeah.
And he's getting rid of the ball. He's not getting sacked, but that offensive line, as you mentioned, John, is getting pressured quite a bit.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be a fascinating matchup. I can't wait to kind of dive into it. And a lot of, again, like I said, a lot of what we talk about, especially on Wednesday on the preview show, like we do every week, is going to be sort of based around Jameis and how he plays coming off the bye week and Monday night against Seattle, one of the worst defenses in the league.
Yeah.
You know, he's put up some good touchdown numbers, like I said, good red zone numbers, but there hasn't really been any real consistent life in the Saints passing attack. You know,
Right.
if they haven't led early in a game, it's been very hard for them to get back in it. And so, I don't know what to think of the Saints. They've been one of the weirdest teams in the league so far. So I'm anxious to get a look at them. I know it's Geno Smith and one of the worst defenses in the NFL. So that's why I'm expecting if they come out and dominate, we might be talking about a team that is ready to make a second half of the year push. And so there'll be a lot to be determined. But either way, the Bucs getting healthier is a good thing. How do you feel about the cornerback situation right now, Scott? Because that's been like the big question mark pretty much every week when the Bucs take the field. Who's going to even play? And I think Bruce Arians said today they've had 8. This will probably be their 8th different combination of starters, but it might not be if D. Delaney and Jamel Dean are out there. They might be able to finally start the same guys they did the week before. But it feels like it's been kind of a different group every week playing the majority of snaps. And if Delaney and Dean are healthy, I guess they'll go again. But do you feel better about them now than you did, or do you still think it's just a huge question mark, huge red flag?
I do, because they've had now months in the system, right? They've been here. We're almost into November now, right? So that they've had some time in the system. They've had plenty of practices, and they're smart players. And I think what Bruce Arians said today, I think to the non-trained listener, it would come across as coach speak, John, or lip service, you know. It's, well, we have a standard, you know, and whether you're a backup or a starter, we have a standard, and you need to get in there and perform up to those standards because you're wearing a helmet that's got a Buccaneer flag on it, right? I mean, it's so cliche. We like smart players, you know, we like to have them come in and learn the scheme, and they just learn quicker because they're smarter. But you know what? There's a ton of truth to what he's saying too. And the reason for that is because Jason Light, John Spytek, Rob McCartney, they're bringing in smart players. They can quickly pick up what they're asked to do. Todd Bowles does a good job of not asking too much, but as Arian said, not being too vanilla, like actually like installing game plans and saying, this is what we're doing, guys. And it's not going to be vanilla. It's going to be a mix of vanilla, chocolate, you know, strawberry, whatever, but it's going to be the game plan. And you guys are smart enough to figure it out and execute. And by the way, when you're in there, we expect you to do starter things like cover receivers, break up passes, get interceptions. And so far, John, the evidence is pointing to the fact that Richard Sherman has done what was asked of him. Pierre Desir has done what was asked of him. D. Delaney has done what was asked of him. And so I don't think there's been a big drop off in play, which is what the role of a backup should be. It's not just coming in and and having to make splash plays. If you do, that's great. But your first objective is to not allow the level of play to really significantly drop off. It's just like the first role of a defensive back is not to pick off the pass or even to break up the pass. It's to just not let the receiver catch the ball. And sometimes you do that by covering the guy so great that the quarterback goes elsewhere, right? Yeah. So that's the first job of a cornerback or any defensive back. Don't allow the ball to be caught. And there's a lot of ways you can do that. And of course, the best one of all is to get the pick, is to get maybe a pick six, but to get the ball back for your offense. And when you see guys like D. Delaney and Pierre Desir contributing that way, I'm not as worried as maybe I was a month or so ago.
Yeah, I agree. And especially seeing those guys get in there and execute a bunch of different stuff now for a full game. And it's one thing when you get thrown in the middle and then, okay, things get simplified a little bit. But the fact that they've been able to go out and execute with a scheme that, like Bruce Arians is saying, they do change things up and do different coverages, and it's gotten more advanced in some ways since week one in terms of what they've done, to be able to cover for some, and maybe they don't have the talent level they did before. So now they're doing some different things, disguising things. And that was a big part of this game for sure. Could see that just watching live. And so, there's a lot of truth to that. The fact that they have so many intelligent players in the secondary really, really helps them. Communication too, especially with Antoine Winfield was up again, and that's a really good sign. But yeah, Pierre Desir, I know it was only 22 snaps, but I think he had a 92 PFF grade and just really did a nice job with the Bears and kind of passed off these spots.
Yeah.
Played great, and Delaney was good enough too. He got the pick, obviously.
And, John, that's hard sometimes, right? To come in the flow of the game as it's going on, right? Now there's two ways to look at it. Number one, Pierre Desir maybe had fresher legs, right? So he can keep up with the receivers he's tasked with covering because it is the second half of the game. But at the same time, too, he's coming off the bench cold. Maybe he played some special team snaps, but he's not been in the flow of the game defensively while everybody else has. And so sometimes that's a tall order too. But to go in there and not get picked on, and then to get a pick when he does have an opportunity, it says an awful lot about him and his skill set.
Oh, it does for sure. And he is a guy that has had some picks. I mean, he's had some ball skills that have really shown up over the last couple of years and over his career, really. But I think he had like 3 picks last year. I know he was picked on too, but he had a handful of picks last year as well. And so he's been a really nice addition and find. And everybody, I think, knows that he's kind of had a pretty solid start to his Bucs tenure, including the coaches in that room. And I think that's going to help him eventually earn more playing time. I'm not even that worried about Richard Sherman if he isn't able to come back. Like I almost feel better with the younger guys just because Sherman is clearly not fast.
Coach Sherman got the job done yesterday, right? I mean,
this might be the role for him. Like if everybody's
crazy.
back after the bye week, if Carlton and Sean Murphy-Bunting come back, where does he fit? You know what I mean? Because he's not going to be ahead of Dean.
You know what's interesting? Back in 2002, during the Super Bowl season, Lomas Brown, who was a great offensive tackle in his prime, but he was well past his prime in Tampa. But he was on the Buccaneers as that reserve swing tackle. They didn't need him. Roman Oben was the left tackle. They moved Kenyatta Walker, who was a former first-round draft pick, just about to be a bust, to the right side during the Super Bowl year because you had Roman Oben, just a better left tackle over there, right? And so Kenyatta Walker, they were trying to salvage his career a little bit, and he was a better fit on the right side. But he was a Gator. Lomas Brown was a Gator. Lomas Brown's job that year was to take Kenyatta Walker under his wings in the locker room, in the meeting rooms, on the practice field, and get that guy's confidence up and have him play well. That was his role, okay? And he got a Super Bowl ring because of that, because he did a great job. Kenyatta Walker did a great job that year. And sometimes you need those guys behind the scenes where that's their role, whether they're hype men, whether they're assistant coaches, whether they're an ear to listen to or a shoulder to cry on, whatever it is, right? Maybe that's what Richard Sherman's role going forward is on this team, not to play, but to be there for this young Buccaneers secondary.
Yep, absolutely. Could be. And that could end up being what it is. And maybe he ends up being fine with that too. When he first signed, I thought maybe Sean Murphy-Bunting's out for the whole year. Maybe he still is. I thought maybe Carlton Davis is going on IR or for the whole year and not coming back maybe for the playoffs. And
John, so I got a question for you. And it's from Emily, actually. Everyone knows Jameis has this game against Circle on his calendar. Who has the greater, or I should say, maybe who's got like the bigger, thicker marker in this situation, circling the game? Is it the Buccaneers circling it because this is Jameis Winston, the guy that was on their team? And sometimes, listen, sometimes you love playing against your friends. I'm not saying there's any animosity towards Jameis. Sometimes you just love to go against, your friends in competition. Maybe you're a defensive player who wasn't allowed to sack Jameis because it's practice, right? But maybe there's that itch to scratch. Or is it where Jameis Winston circles this because the Bucs chose Tom Brady over him? Who's got the bigger marker in this instance circling this game? And of course, there's a numbers thing, right? One guy with Jameis and a whole team full of Buccaneers. But whose marker is bigger, John?
I think the Bucs, just because it's the Saints. I don't think it's because of Jameis, really. I mean, I'm sure with a couple of players, it's like, oh, it's it's our boy. Like, I'll be glad to hit him. Like, but I don't think that there's any. The Jameis factor adds a lot to it for the Bucs, at least. I think to them, it's just the Saints, and that's a big game. And that team beat us for a long time, and they swept us last year in the regular season. And I think
actually swept Arians both years.
Yeah, both years, right? Season. So so he's never beat him in the regular season, and obviously they've not won that division either. So I think that's a big. They know that this game stands for a lot in that way. Now for Jameis, it's probably definitely a little bit of that. He probably definitely has it circled a little bit. I don't know whether that's good or bad for Jameis because we really haven't seen him in that spot, right? We haven't seen Jameis I would say there's been a couple regular season games where like you knew if they won this game, there was a good chance they would maybe sneak into the playoffs.
Right.
But there hasn't been like big games for Jameis. If they win tonight, which Monday night, which they absolutely should over a Seattle team that I don't know what they have to offer right now. The Saints should win that game. And so if they do, then they know, okay, wow, I think it's first place is on the line, right? Because the tiebreaker is the first, the head-to-head is the first tiebreaker, I believe. So if the Saints win tonight and win next week, they would technically have first place, even if just for a little while. And so, yeah, I think that's a big game for Jameis. It's a big game for the Saints, and he hasn't played in a lot of those. So I don't know what that stage is going to do to him. It's not the same as when he'll come back to Raymond James for a night game, and we'll see what happens there. But it's still going to be a factor in that one for him. I don't know if it's going to help him or hurt him, but I also don't think that the rest of the Saints team need that either. Like, they're ready for this game too. Both sides are going to be up for this game. I don't think that's a question no matter what happens. I just wonder if it makes Jameis do a little too much at times.
Yeah, maybe some of those high throws that Tom Brady had when he went back to New England against his former team.
The Saints are hiding Jameis right now. I mean, that's what they're doing. Like that, whether that continues all season, maybe not. Maybe they feel like they get him to a certain point, and then boom, the cuffs are off, and he's ready.
And great point by you, John, because I think you're right. That's something that Bruce Arians addressed today, right? It's like when you drub a team. I was going to say beat, but it's really a drubbing at 38-3. Where are the coaching points, right? Where does Todd Bowles and Bruce Arians, where do they come in and throw the clipboard and still get mad over a 38-3 loss? Because you always have to fix things if you're a coach, even if there's not a whole bunch wrong. But for Bruce Arians on offense, it was getting the offense down there inside the Bears 4-yard line twice, 2 drives, coming away with 3 points. That needs to be fixed, right? The goal line offense. But the thing that Bruce really mentioned as it applies to the Saints game is on the defensive side, where you give up 100 yards rushing, including, I think, over 90 to Khalil Herbert, a running back you and I both liked out of Virginia Tech, John. Listen, that's not good, especially when you're used to giving up about half of that in a game. And he had 3 runs over 12 yards in the game, including a big 29-yarder. Alvin Kamara, and you said it correctly, they're hiding Jameis to a degree by becoming really balanced on offense. Kamara in the past has really been used as a weapon out of the backfield, but he can really spring for 100 yards at any point in time on the ground. He's averaging 3.9 yards per carry, but they are leaning on him. He only has 1 rushing touchdown, but I think in this game especially, Sean Payton's smart enough to realize that if Jameis Winston comes out, he's a little too amped up, you're really going to see a lot of heavy dose of Alvin Kamara on Sunday. And especially, he's going to want to probe a couple of things that the Bears were able to attack and see if the Buccaneers haven't shored up their defenses this Sunday.
Yeah, for sure. And John Paul asked, would Michael Thomas play? And I believe the belief is right now that he would not play. I don't think he's close. Maybe the second matchup, but not this one. I don't think he'll be back and ready for this. So it'll be Marquez Callaway, Deontay Harris, some of those guys. I think Traquan Smith is he coming back tonight? Or I know he came back to practice this week. I don't know if he's activated for tonight, but certainly I think they'd like to get him back in time for that game against the Bucs. So
he's definitely a big play guy for them.
And Callaway's been, and so is Deontay Harris. So they have guys that can make one play and stretch the field. Still, though, I mean, you are talking about a Saints team, and we'll get into all this on Wednesday's show too. But they're 29th in passing right now across the league, 5 games, whatever. And I mean, the 31st in passing. I'm sorry, 29th in overall offense in terms of yards per game. And defensively, they're 22nd against the pass too. They're great against the run. They're very good at running it. I think ranked 10th right now in the NFL in terms of rushing. But once you get in the top 10, the numbers are separated by like a yard or two. So they've been very good in the trenches on both sides when it comes to the ground game. It's through the air that they have not really been able to be that explosive.
And John, the thing I'm going to look for tonight when I'm watching the Saints play the Seahawks is if the Saints defense can get any more pressure, because losing Trey Hendrickson, he was a kind of a one-dimensional, one-trick pony type pass rusher, but he did have 13 sacks last year, 13 and a half, whatever it was. And they really have not been able to replace that. When you look at the sack numbers, Tano Passanio has got 2 sacks. He's actually the team leader. The Saints as a whole only have 8 sacks in the first 5 games. And you look at some of those guys that they were counting on, including their first-round pick, Marcus Davenport. He only has 1. I know he's been banged up, but they really don't have the juice off the edge. Cameron Jordan, where I think we're seeing kind of the beginning of the end to his career. He just is not the explosive player that he used to be. Doesn't mean he can't go off in a certain game, but it's not going to be against Tristan Wirfs. I'll tell you that right now. So to me, that's what I'm going to be looking for, because John, you're seeing a Buccaneer offensive line that has now for the third straight week not given up any sacks, and it's
they're on a dominant level.
Line is a dominant level. It's a great way to put
it. The only guy that's really pushed them has been Aaron Donald this season, and he's just going to do that with everybody. You know, and again that took scheme, that always takes everybody, no matter who you play. But other than that, they've really, and they've gotten better every week too. The beginning of the season, there was some rust for sure, and passing off stunts and things like that. And last month they've just played at an extremely high level. Basically, 5 guys across the board. Kappa's had some hiccups, but the other 4 have been pretty much rock solid in that time. So it's great to see that's the direction they have to be trending in. Saints haven't been as formidable as a pass rush group for sure as they were a year ago, even when the Bucs faced them. And so we'll see, though. They get Peyton Turner kind of acclimated. Marcus Davenport was injured again, I believe. He's coming back. I think he also was back at practice this week. And so they're going to have reinforcements coming for sure. And so they'll be better as a pass rush group than they've been. But yeah, it's been a question mark for them. Certainly. I also hope we don't get a bunch of penalties. That's one of the keys in this game for sure, right? I mean, like if the Bucs are the Saints just don't do a lot of things, and that's maybe one of the reasons why they're hiding Jameis. They haven't done a lot of things to like beat themselves.
Right.
Who knows when if they let Jameis loose, if that continues. But like you said, they're not taking a bunch of sacks this year. Largely the scheme tries to get it out as quickly as they can, as often as they can anyway. And they haven't turned the ball over a ton this year. So that is they're efficient in the red area, and doing those little things well has helped them. They've also forced a bunch of turnovers, and so they've done some good things. So yeah, absolutely going to be a challenge. Like I said, we'll talk more about that game on Wednesday still too, but that one, it's kind of a big game. I mean, it's obviously a big game for the division. That goes without saying really, but you also look ahead on the Bucs schedule and you consider how they've played against weaker teams over the time Brady's been here, and with Brady and Arians, they feel like even when they've been maybe a little bit closer than it should have been, the result really hasn't been in doubt too much. And after the bye week, you get a little bit healthier, hopefully. And you've got Washington, you've got the Giants, 2-5 teams right there. The Colts are playing a little bit better right now. We'll see if Carson Wentz survives until November, the end of November. I'm not confident in his health. Then you have Atlanta, who's also playing a little bit better.
Right.
Buffalo, Saints. So you might have a tough month there, 4 tougher games than you expect. And then the Panthers, I mean, what's going on even there? They might be in on these Deshaun Watson trades. Sam Darnold got benched. He's clearly not been good enough. They've lost 4 in a row.
Right.
It feels like change could be coming there at the quarterback position, but what are they going to do? Are they going to have enough for Watson? Is he even going to be able to play this year? So some question marks there with Carolina too. And then you've obviously got the Jets in the middle there, and Zach Wilson's hurt right now, and he'll be back by then. But if they want,
it's not going to matter.
It's not going to matter. That's the worst team.
It's not going to matter.
That's a bottom 2 team in the league, I think. So
yeah.
It feels like this game, is if they can win this and get to 7-1 for the bye, Scott, then I mean, maybe 2 losses the rest of the way, but that would be a little bit of a surprise, I think.
No, I'm with you on that totally. I'm going to check out what the line is right now in my bookie, John. So talk for about 10 or 15 seconds while I do that. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. I think tonight's game, looking at the Saints defensively, I want to see Marcus Williams. I think he's a difference maker type of player, and he's someone the Bucs have really had a hard time with. Brady and he have played a lot of games. We might even talk about that we'll definitely talk about it on the pregame show, but
speaking of Brady, he's actually going to be on Monday Night Football tonight.
That's true. Yeah, he is going to be on the show tonight too. And I hope they ask him about Marcus Williams tonight, because man, that guy is just the way Brady tries to move him and tries to hold him. And sometimes Williams has got him, and sometimes he's got Williams, and the Saints rely on Williams a lot to play that role. And so, I'm very curious to see how that matchup goes tonight, and then also in the game on Sunday, because Brady, I think, has a lot of respect for him.
Okay, so here's the thing. We don't know what the line is yet for the Bucs Saints game, because obviously the Saints have yet to play, right? Because injuries can be a factor in that. But what I can tell you is this. If you go to mybookie.ag, they've got the NBA lock of the season. And John, this is why I love betting with MyBookie, not just because they're a sponsor of the show, right? They've been a sponsor for years. I've been a MyBookie player for years because they're in the business of giving you free money. Now, what do I mean by free money? You've probably heard me say this before. They did this with the Bucs Cowboys game, where if either team scores a point, you win like up to $25. So basically the thing is to bet $25. That's the max you can bet in these type of situations, what they call the lock of the season.
Yeah.
And they do that. They had one to kick off the NHL season, right? If either team, the Kraken or whoever it was, if it was the, I think they played Las Vegas.
The Knights?
Yeah. The Golden Knights. Either team scores a goal, you win. Okay. So they've got one now for the NBA lock of the season. So what is a lock? A lock is simply put, it's a bet that you can't lose. And with MyBookie, you can't lose with the NBA lock of the season. I've already done this. Do it yourself. If you're not a MyBookie fan or subscriber or customer, subscribe today to MyBookie. Get a membership and do this. If you're currently a MyBookie player, head over there and do this. It's free, $25. When you bet on either team to score between the Dallas Mavericks or the Denver Nuggets this Friday, you win. The NBA's never gone scoreless in any game. Okay, so this is a sure bet. MyBookie does
pretty
this
good.
like 5 or 6 times a year. They literally would give you a lock of the season. All you have to do is just literally go over there and bet $25, and you win $25. Okay, place your bet. They score, you win. It's that easy. Get paid Friday, wake up Saturday, then throw down your money on the UFC 267. This weekend, MyBookie is also giving users a $100 risk-free wager on the light heavyweight championship fight between Jan Blachowicz and Glover Teixeira. So don't wait. Head over to mybookie.ag, use their promo code PEWTER, and get in on the NBA lock of the season. That's promo code PEWTER. It's a lock. So get your season started with a win. You can thank me later. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie.
Scott, I don't want to get too much in the weeds with this game, but I just am so curious to see what happens with Antonio Brown this week because I think he's such an important piece for them when it comes to certain teams. Obviously, Chicago wasn't that big of a deal, but the Saints are a different story, and I think it's really going to matter having him. So I'll be curious to see what happens with him as the week progresses, but really just looking at the Bucs wide receiver room in general, this has been kind of an incredible season, and I saw an incredible stat about Mike Evans. Did I put that in the Computer Report group chat? I can't remember if I did or not, but basically had a list of players who have reached the milestones that Evans has reached in terms of yards and touchdowns this season, or through his career actually up to this point, and his first 113 games, I believe it was. And like the only other 8 receivers who've ever reached the marks he's reached are like a bunch of Hall of Famers. AJ Green. Yeah, it's like just all a bunch of ridiculous receivers. I'll see if I can find the exact numbers, but yeah, he's what he's doing in terms of consistency and volume is just pretty remarkable. And I feel like it's hard to make sure we give equal airtime to everybody on this team.
Right.
And we obviously have done it for years, even before I was here with Mike Evans, when he was like the only guy to talk about on the team. But I don't want to get lost. And I just thought he played exceptionally the other day.
Yeah.
Some of the routes he ran were phenomenal. And if he can, I don't think he's been the most consistent of their weapons since Brady arrived. But I think if he's finding that now this season, if he's finding that over the last 4 or 5 games, then I just think it really I don't know, man. It's a whole different type of weapon for the Bucs offense. Everybody talked about AB getting acclimated, but Godwin is what Godwin is, and AB, when he knows the offense he's in, is what he is.
Right.
If Evans is consistently the guy that's going to catch a 46-yard bomb every game and change the game with one play like that, and then obviously do what he's always done in the red zone,
right?
He's going to be a weapon there. But if he can be the weapon between the 20s in terms of being able to get open vertically and catch those bombs and beat what's been always the knock, beating the single coverage, the quality corners, right? Jalen Johnson, one of these rising stars, he just tore him apart in the Bears game. Byron Jones is big money corner. PFF had him as their number 1 corner for a while, I believe. Not this year, but other years. Boom, just destroyed him, So now is the matchup, right? Marshawn Lattimore, Mike Evans. I don't know if Evans has ever gotten the better of this matchup, has he? I mean,
he has.
A play early on, maybe when Lattimore's but last 4 games, I feel like I'll look up Evans' numbers, but last 4 games, it feels like it's been pretty one-sided, and some of that's been.
I think he went off in 2019 against Lattimore. Let me see here real quick here. I want to say, gosh, ESPN always drive me nuts with that autoplay. Let's see, 2019.
Here's his career average numbers: 13 games in his career against the Saints. So obviously, not all these are Lattimore, but he's averaged 6.3 targets, 3.5 catches, 51 yards and 0.3 touchdowns.
There's no doubt about it. I mean, Marshawn Lattimore has been a bit of a kryptonite to him, just like James Bradbury was. So no, actually it wasn't. It was back in 2018. Mike Evans has had a couple of games where he literally has had like under 10 yards, but maybe a touchdown or two. But
yeah, I see what you mean. The 2018 game. I don't even remember.
7 catches, 147 yards, and a touchdown. That's when, with Ryan Fitzpatrick was the quarterback. That's when they won on opening day, 48-40. I won a massive bet on my bookie because I just this game. I did. Oh man, I think I won like, I don't bet much. I think I literally won $75. Which is a lot of money for me.
That's big for you, yeah.
So but usually I bet $5. I think I bet like 25. And the money line was, I think the Saints were favored by 13 points in opening day, 13 or 14. Yeah. And I was like, I'm taking that all day long. So, and Evans was a big contributor in that game. 7 catches on 7 targets, 147 yards, and a touchdown, including a 50-yarder. Like you said, John, it's those deep shots. He's kind of been the guy for that.
Right. And, those 2018 matchups, both of those were good ones for him. And then lately it's been just not the same at all. 3 targets, 0 catches in 2019, the first game that they played in week 5, and then 4 catches for 69 yards, no touchdowns on 8 targets the next week. And then 2020, the 1-2-yard touchdown catch in week 1 last year, and then 4 for 64 in their second meeting, which was the blowout. A lot of that game after was already pretty much over. And so that he just hasn't been able to get going against the Saints. And I think if he can have that kind of a game, I don't know. Everybody on the team's aware of that rivalry. Like, this, that's, and plus they all week 1 last year, they're in each other's face. I think Evans might've got both maybe got flagged last year, getting in each other's face.
Oh, yeah. It's a real rivalry. Deal. They've gone to blows before. There's no doubt about it. The line for tonight is Saints -4. So even though it's in Seattle, they're +4. So again, the Saints expected to win there. Thank you so much for joining, L. Smith 11, just a Texans fan, just joining stream randomly. We love that. Everybody's welcome here.
Texans fans looking around for some solace. I get it. Sorry, L. Smith, didn't mean to offend you right off the bat, but okay, Richard, appreciate it. Jon and Scott, $5 super chat. What would you have done if you were the lucky fan who got touchdown 600? It's funny. We are probably the only Bucs outlet that has not written 4 articles about this today. I don't know if fans have had their fill at all, but we did talk about this yesterday on the post-game podcast, Richard, by the way, if you want to go back and look at it, you could hear responses, I think we asked several Peter reporters what they would have done in this situation if they got it. But I'm not giving that ball back to a Bucs staffer. If Brady comes over and asks me himself, all right. I'm not going to act like I'm not going to act like I'm going to say no to Brady.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think that's the response. It's like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to watch the game, right? I'll be here. If Tom wants to come over and have a conversation about it, I'm totally fine with that, right? Because the thing is if you want to be the good guy, if you want to be the good fan, whatever, and give the ball back, I mean, that's fine. But it's like, you can go buy an autographed Tom Brady jersey. Okay, you can. Mm-hmm. You can go buy an autographed anything Tom Brady. It's just how much money do you have? But how many times are you going to meet a very guarded guy like Tom Brady, who does not make public appearances, who does not sign anything in public, who can't, because he's an icon, right? He can't. He can't sit there and shake 100 fans' hands, because there would be 1,000 more right behind those 100, right? He can't sign one autograph because he's disappointing 400 people that didn't get one, right? So he just doesn't. So I think that's the first thing is I'm maybe hanging on to that ball until the end of the game, and if Tom wants to come over, we'll talk about it. If not, listen, I don't want to be,
people are asking Greg, would you make it out of the stadium alive though? Like with
that's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like Raymond James does have security, right? And technically that is NFL property, believe it or not. It's NFL property. The players, when they give it to you, they actually have to pay for the ball. And I believe there's a fine attached to that too, because that's something the league does not want to do. Guys like Mike Evans, who make $16-17 million a year, doesn't matter, right? He wants to give away a ball that costs $150 and pay the fine, no biggie. But you're right, John. I don't know that security lets that guy walk out of the stadium at that point.
I meant from other fans, but that is a good point too. Maybe security stops him. I don't know what happens, but either way, it's been funny for people to talk about for sure. I did not expect to see this much talk about it, but here we are.
I'm just gonna. I said it last night. I'll say it again. An autographed Tom Brady rookie card went for $3.1 million at a collector's auction back on June 5th this summer.
Yeah.
So what would that ball that was thrown by one future Hall of Famer, caught by another, and it is the number 600 touchdown pass by Tom Brady in a game-used ball in a win, in a Buccaneer win. What is that worth? I don't know. A lot.
A lot for sure. No question. All right. Before we wrap this thing up, Scott, I know we've got a couple things we want to cover. I got a question for you about this Bucs team. I'm curious to see what your answer is. But first, I got to talk about our friends over at Spotify Green Room. This is the place you can go to talk music, sports, and culture. Anything you want, you find a topic that you're interested in, you jump into a conversation, you grab the mic, you let your voice be heard as a fan, as somebody who's a consumer of these things. You could download on the App Store. You can get it on Google Play. Follow Pewter Report when you get in there, and you'll get pinged. You'll get a little notification when Pewter Report goes live. You can jump in our shows, and you can grab the mic on Spotify Green Room and chat with us. So good stuff from our friends over there. Scott, my question for you is this: if there's one Bucs player,
hold on, John. We got some really smart, educated Pewter Report podcast
talking Blaine Gabbert to you.
Yeah,
gonna derail the show.
A Gabbert game ball would be like the crown jewels. If it's not a game ball from Sir Blaine Gabbert, not worth it. Interesting takes.
Let me ask you this: if there's one Bucs player that you're going into, and we'll do this again during the bye week, I'm sure, but especially this game, I just think it's such a big game. I think for the Bucs of their season, figuring out where they're at. Who's the Bucs player, both sides of the ball, maybe one on both sides of the ball, that you feel like needs to play better moving forward? Like for this team to get on that side of the ball where they need to be in terms of a difference-making dominant unit, who's the player that you have your eye on?
I think easily on defense, Devin White. He's got to be splashier, right? He's making the tackles. He's missing some, but he's making them. He's making the calls. You're not seeing this defense in the wrong scheme, right? He's making the right checks. I think mentally he's doing the right things. I think the problem is just physically. And I don't know if it's just a luck thing or sometimes you have to create your own luck, right? Because, luck is opportunity meeting preparation, or maybe I've got that backwards. But the thing is he's got to become a splashier player, because that's why you drafted him with the 5th overall pick 2 years ago is to be the splash player, not to be a steady Eddie, but to be a star. And I think Devin White has missed opportunities for some sacks, because he's come in a little too hot and allowed some average quarterbacks. I mean, that Mac Jones sidestep that's criminal, right? So I think I want to see some more splash plays from Devin White. I think on the offensive side of the ball, it's really hard to find fault, John, with an offense that is averaging 33.3 points per game, a top top 3 scoring offense. I don't have any qualms really with the offensive side of the ball. I know that's crazy to sound, but I'm going through every single starter, and it's like I don't know who has to play better.
I think as blockers, Cam Brate and OJ Howard. Like, I'll just say
that. I'll give you that. I don't know.
Yeah. It's silly to me that every game Bruce Arians has kind of pointed out, like, he's not even been asked about tight ends. You could just ignore the fact that they've been bad as blockers.
Right.
Instead, he's just asked about the run game, and then he specifically brings up the tight ends, who are unquestionably, like, anyone could watch the game on all 22 if they get the tape and Game Pass and just watch it, and you could see that I haven't been good at all. Like, Arians
it's kind of like this, right? It's like left tackle, left guard, center, right guard, right tackle, tight end, right? Like in terms of the ability, the credibility of the blocking, especially in the run game.
And run game, pass protection. I mean, OJ's been asked to do a lot of the Gronk stuff in pass pro, and he's just barely hanging on for dear life most of the time. Brady's saving him, obviously. I think OJ has given up a sack or two this season, but Brady's saving him most of the time with that quick release, no question. But I mean, the limited sample size for pass block reps, but in the run game, they just have not been assets at all, neither of them. And so it's just so weird to me that we could, like, every game, Arians has pointed out these guys are doing a heck of a job. And it's just going to be very good to get Gronkowski back out there in that role. At least he's not even an elite run blocker at tight end. A few guys are, but he's definitely acceptable, and he's great in pass protection. So That is kind of the biggest thing to me is those tight ends need to play. But you're right about Devin White, no question. He's got to be the guy on defense that steps up.
And it's not like he's been bad. It's just he hasn't been splashy, and that's what he needs to be.
He's hurt the team too much, I think, though. Like they would have better numbers if it wasn't for Devin White. Some of the fact that he plays out of it. It's not like he said, like you said, he knows what to do pre-snap. He is after the snap avoid doing something different because he thinks he can do it. And that's just not how things work in the NFL most of the time. Like you stay on script and you do your job and you're a phenomenal athlete and physical specimen. And if you do that, you're going to be successful more often than not. He just hasn't done it enough.
Maybe it's because I've watched too many Marvel movies or action movies, whatever, whether it's Air Force One or whether it's Iron Man, whatever. It's like sometimes, John, it's like with your heat-seeking missile, right? What do? You lock on the target and you go. But sometimes, whatever you're chasing can use some flares, right, to kind of throw you off. And sometimes the heat-seeking missile hits the flare rather than the actual target. And I think that's kind of what's happened sometimes with Donovan Mitchell. He sees, he runs, and his eyes betray him sometimes, rather than reading his keys or staying with his gap or in his assignment. Frank G, John, you've been all over Tom Brady's scrambling ability. You and Paul Atwell really have been kind of breaking down Brady. I was going to say 2.0, but really 22.0, right? I mean, the 22 years.
22.0, yeah.
Yeah, 22 years in the league. He's got a new knee now. He's not afraid to do things like run around. We talked about on our Underdog Fantasy segment in the Pewter pregame show, the over Tom Brady was 1.5 yards. He didn't hit yesterday. Do you share Frank G's disappointment? We didn't see Brady get outside.
Well, I didn't put any money on it. I didn't put any money on it, so I don't feel his disappointment on that level. It sounds like maybe Frank did put some money on it, and maybe he's hurting a little bit, in which I am hurting also because I've lost 3 days in a row. I've lost some cheese, Frank. So I am feeling your pain in that way, just not over that specific instance. But no, Brady's ability to throw outside of structure this season has been pretty incredible. It's not just the physical ability, like athletic ability that he's shown, but it's also just the acumen. Like he's not really a guy who's done it a ton in his career, and he seems very comfortable doing it this year. Yes. So that's just it's kind of startling. It's pretty amazing to watch. He's just been the touchdown throw to Mike Evans in the back of the end zone. Man, what an unreal throw. He didn't have he saw a lane, honestly, and he thought, I'm going to run. That was going to be Frank's scramble right there. That's right. He was going to scramble. Pass block was great. He saw this huge lane open up, and because eyes got big, I think, and he said, let's do it. And then he sees Evans pop open in the back of the end zone and just like on the move, guns that sucker to the back line. I mean, right on the money, laced in there. That's another element to the game, man. He's playing at that kind of level right now. That's pretty elite and pretty fun to see. So, there will be lots to kind of analyze in terms of the Bucs offense after this game specifically because of how many issues the Saints defense has given them more than any other team that they face, I think, just in terms of schematically. And it's a huge game for Byron Leftwich too, because he's got to problem solve in ways that he hasn't really been that successful problem solving. And I think Bruce Arians made it clear. I don't know if you got to catch him on Colin Cowherd's show the other day, Scott, but he was like more adamant than even he was late last year that this is completely Byron Leftwich's offense. Like Byron Leftwich calls everything. He's created like the wrinkles. He goes to Tom and says, "What do you think about this?" And Tom agrees with like what he said. But it was a really telling interview just in terms of Arians saying like, I have really handed this thing over. Like that might not have been the case in 2019. Right. In 2020, it became the case. In 2021, it's, he is just like, this is Byron's show. Like he says he doesn't even go to all the meetings like for it. That's how much it's just Byron's show. He runs it. So
I would say, maybe coach is in there enjoying a crown. I don't know that to be fact, so I don't want to speculate, but the thing with Leftwich that's really interesting is that the Bucs points per game under his watch as the play caller have gone from 28.6 points in 2019, first year with Jameis, and then to 30.8 points. So just, almost a field goal differential there, or 2 points really, in the regular season a year ago. And then this year, 33.3. So you've seen just about a 5-6 point per game differential. And really the difference there, the obvious difference is Instead of the field goal, they're getting a touchdown, right? That's kind of what they're doing. And we've seen the red zone efficiency be much better, the second half aside against Chicago. But by and large, they're scoring touchdowns and not field goals. And that's why you're seeing this explosion of points. I've never seen anything like it. Certainly not in Tampa, right? I mean, Tampa, even back in their Super Bowl heydays, has always been about defense, not about offense. I've seen some wickedly awful offense here in Tampa.
Right.
I've never seen anything like this.
Even on winning teams. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt. Yeah, there's no doubt. But this level of offense it's special. It's unique. I don't think we're going to see this collection of players ever again in Tampa. And I don't like using absolutes, but you're going to be hard pressed to get the collection of talent from this offensive group and have the type of statistics and points at some point going forward. I'm just not sure when that would happen.
Yeah, should be a fun season. Absolutely. Speaking of special and unique, check out our friends over at livinggolflife.com. They got some unbelievable polo designs. They're comfortable too. If you're getting out on the golf course, it's a great place to get yourself some stuff to wear and to use while you're out there. You got the Golf Life hat. It's one of my favorite hats that I own. You can follow them on Instagram at livinggolflife. You can check out some of the new products that they're dropping. You can check them out on their website, livinggolflife.com, and see the stuff that they're coming out with as well. And maybe pick yourself up a polo, ask for it as a gift. The holidays are, believe it or not, around the corner. We're almost at the end of October. That is just absurd to me. But livinggolflife.com, great place to earmark for your holiday shopping for sure. This week on the show, Scott, we've got we're going to talk about our preview show is going to be Wednesday. We're off tomorrow. On the show preview show is going to be Wednesday. We'll dive into some of the detailed statistics of this Bucs Saints game, some of the history, the recent history, especially. There's a lot of that to talk about, way more to talk about than there is on a typical show. So we're going to talk about it. We might split this preview up into 2 days and do like a offense Wednesday.
I like that
defense.
Idea.
You know what I mean? Like,
I like that.
A Thursday show open.
This is such a huge game. I mean, listen, from a national media standpoint, right? The Bucs Patriots game because of Brady returning back to New England. You know, I was asked by a lot of local newscasters down here about my thoughts regarding this game. And I said, this is a much bigger deal for the Boston crowd, for the New England crowd than it is for Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
You know, it's just
100%.
Yeah, it was a much more of a national thing. Tampa Bay, it's like, great, we're playing an AFC team and the Patriots. Who cares, right? I mean, it's no big deal. In my opinion, and I think the Rams game was a big deal because that's kind of the measuring stick, right? But this is the game, in my opinion. Right, there was the season opener against the Cowboys. All that was just the first game of the season. The Rams game, the Patriots game, those were big games. This is, in my opinion, the biggest game of the season because I want to see if the Buccaneers can pick up where they left off in New Orleans with that 30-20 win, or if you're going to revert back to the Saints being the bully during the regular season. They've won 4 straight over Arians, 5 straight in the regular season dating back to the last game of the Cutter era. It's going to be fascinating. I think that the Saints are depleted on defense from where they were a year ago, but I'm not going to say that Dennis Allen won't have the Bucs number because I really think this game's going to get into coaching more so than anything.
I agree. Yep, I agree completely. I think it might not be the most important game of the schedule, but it's the one fans are definitely looking forward to the most. And it might end up being the most important one when we look back. We don't know. I still don't know really what the Saints are. So I think we've got a lot to figure out in that regard. But it's the one the fans, I think, are looking forward to more than any other game for sure. And we are too, to be honest. We always are. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun week on the show for sure. Subscribe, Pewter Report TV. If you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're telling everybody about the show so they can get subbed up and see all the content that we're producing and check it out. Hit like on our videos. That always gives us a nice little bump in whatever analytics YouTube uses to determine, what should video show up in front of people, things like that. So we definitely appreciate that. And we appreciate all you jumping in here, tuning in for another great show. And we'll see you on Wednesday for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.